Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. We have Dave could not do the show today. We've got a big day to cover with SEC Media Days. We've got Tennessee taking the podium at 1:30 today. Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum talking about Phillip Fulmer. That's kind of interesting. We got to get down to that and see what's going on there. We have the biggest questions facing Tennessee as they take the stand at SEC Media Days. Is it good news that they're flying under the radar? Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum, we talk about that. Diego Pavia says a national championship is the goal for Vanderbilt. That'll be bank on it. And we have Greg Sankey says the college football playoff could stay at 12 teams if the SEC and Big Ten don't come to an agreement. So please hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on. We are having a few technical difficulties today. I apologize, guys. That's why things are struggling. But stay with me. 2 minutes Off the Hook Sports. I'm trying to get something situated. Hopefully, when we come back, we will have it. Just stick with us. 2 minutes Off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
All right, welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Please hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on, tell a friend. Again, we had some major technical difficulties on our end. Dave will not be able to do the show today. Josh Heupel is supposed to hit the podium at 1:30, so we will talk a little bit about what's going to go on there. And let's go ahead and get started. It is 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. That's right, Ted Russell Ford, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. Let's get started with the biggest question surrounding Tennessee football as they take the stand at SEC Media Days. Obviously, there's a lot going on with the Vols right now. They are about to take the stand on Tuesday. By the time you guys see this, it'll probably be over, but we're going to go ahead and get started with this. As Tennessee takes a stand at SEC Media Days, there's a lot of different questions surrounding the Vols as they somewhat fly under the radar this year. Here are the biggest things going on for Tennessee at SEC Media Days right now, the biggest questions surrounding them. First down, and this is 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford. Cooper Mays would tell you to hit that like and subscribe button. Cooper Mays, first down, says this: Nico Iamaleava and the quarterback competition is first down. this is kind of a twofold thing that we want to address. So let's go ahead and get that out there. The quarterback competition with Nico Iamaleava. Well, first off, Nico Iamaleava transferring to UCLA was a huge story in the offseason. Obviously, a big deal. Nico Iamaleava transferring to UCLA was a huge deal. The question I think a lot of people don't know is, how did that affect team chemistry? Okay, because the thing is, what a lot of people aren't paying attention to is that team chemistry hasn't really been addressed since he hit the portal. Remember, he hit the portal on the day of the spring game. For those who don't remember how this all broke, Thursday night, the last night of spring practice, basically occurred with Nico Iamaleava and that report coming out about Nico Iamaleava saying, or the On3 Pete Nakos report on Nico Iamaleava. Friday came out and he was reportedly not at practice. Saturday came and he didn't. And then the news came out before the spring game that he hit the portal. Nico Iamaleava, with the biggest question surrounding the Vols, how did that affect team chemistry? We still don't know. Tennessee hasn't really made a lot of public statements since then. SEC Media Days is their first time making public statements. So with that in mind, we really don't know Nico Iamaleava and what's going on with him. So taking that into account, that's a huge story. Tied into the biggest questions are the quarterback competition. The quarterback competition involving George McIntyre, Jake Merklinger, and Appalachian State transfer Joey Aguilar. Okay, Joey Aguilar, we think, is leading and is going to be the favorite to get the starting job. But who's actually going to win that role? We don't know. We don't know. Will there be an open competition or not? That's first down. That's the biggest question, and we're not sure how that's all going to play out. But keep an eye on that, because we're going to want to know how all of that lands and how all of that works. So the biggest two questions for first down are Nico Iamaleava and his transfer and how that affected team chemistry, and the quarterback competition. We don't know how either of those is going to go. And truth be told, it's very, very intriguing. And that's first down from Cooper May. Second down. The roster turnover on offense. Dave and I talked about this last week. with the roster turnover. Basically, the roster turnover on offense is the biggest deal in terms of transitions beyond Nico. Nico's just a part of that, but that goes into a larger story, which is that Tennessee lost 9 of 11 starters on offense last year. From last year. They've lost 9 of 11. That comes with Nico Iamaleava transferring. The only returning starters are Miles Kitzelman and my mind's just trying to blink real quick. And Lance Hurd. Miles Kitzelman and Lance Hurd. How is Tennessee going to address the roster turnover? That has a lot to do with Nico Iamaleava specifically. That's kind of the intriguing part of this. Nico Iamaleava specifically deals with the roster turnover. We don't know how that's all going to play out, but it's kind of a really, really big question. How is Tennessee going to deal with that roster turnover? There are at least going to be 4 new starters on the offensive line. Remember, Tennessee lost, just to name all the starters they lost, Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, Andre Carrick, John Campbell, Brew McCoy at receiver, Squirrel White in the slot, Dante Thornton at receiver, Dylan Sampson, the record-setting running back. They all lost to the transfer portal or to the NFL or to graduation. How will that affect them on offense this year? A lot of these guys that are coming in to start have been in the system for a while. They should have chemistry. The receivers may be upgraded. So there could actually be more talent with this team going forward. However, as of right now, the roster turnover on offense is still a huge question. That's something that everybody's going to be wanting to hear from them. Third down, defensive line depth. Now, this is a big one. Tennessee lost Amari Thomas, Omar Norman-Lott, and Elijah Simmons on the interior of the defensive line to graduation this past year. They also lost James Pierce on the edge, who was an all-world edge rusher. Will they have the same defensive line depth this year? A big reason their defense was so, honestly, historically great for a while last year was because they could go about 12 or 13 deep on the defensive line. Will they be able to replace those 4 players? There's a lot of guys in the system coming through, you got Damon Hobbs, Jordan Ross, returning guys that were contributors like Bryson Eason, Jackson Moy, Joshua Josephs, plenty of talent, Tyree West, Dominic Bailey. But how deep can they go? That's the real question, because the defensive line depth is a really, 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 really intriguing thing going forward. That if they don't have the same level of depth, Tim Banks will have to get creative again with his schemes, which he should have done last year, honestly, when they were playing Georgia and Ohio State. But if they don't have it, he'll definitely have to get creative again with his blitz packages and things like that. Shouldn't have as much trouble this year. Arian Carter, more experienced in the system. Jeremiah T. Lander at linebacker. But defensive line depth specifically is the biggest question on defense, and that's something that Tennessee will want to answer. Again, they have a lot more starters back on defense than offense, so there should be a lot of reason for excitement there. But the actual defensive line depth is a big thing. Tennessee's defensive line depth is going to be a giant question going forward. Again, there are budding stars rising through the ranks there, most notably Jordan Ross, and on the interior, reliable returning guys like Joshua Josephs, Tyree West, Dominic Bailey, not Joshua Josephs, Bryson Easton, Joshua Josephs, a returning edge rusher. A lot of promise there. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Banks & Jones, T. Scott Jones, play to win, banksandjones.com. This is 4 Downs by Ted Russell Ford. 4th down coming up. First, a quick message from Ted Russell Ford.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All right, and 4th down. 4th down from the biggest question surrounding the Vols as they take the stand at SEC Media Days. Josh Heupel's recruiting finally being tested. Here's an interesting stat for you. This year, it's likely, for the first time since Josh Heupel has taken over at Tennessee, that the majority of starters this year will be players he signed out of high school. That's right. His recruiting is finally being tested because the majority of starters this year for Tennessee will be players he signed out of high school. Particularly on the offensive line, Josh Heupel is entering year 5 and has not yet started an offensive lineman he signed out of high school. At least 2 will be starting for Tennessee this year out of high school. And I'm talking David Sanders, and is the favorite to start at right tackle. And then there's talk about William Satterwhite, Max Anderson, one of them. Now, obviously, Wendell Moe, Sam Pendleton are both transfers. They could both start, and Lance Hurd is a returning starter. He was a transfer. We don't know, but even if all 3 of them start, he's going to have at least 2 starters he signed out of high school. So the question will be, does that make Tennessee better that Josh Heupel, you could theoretically say, finally has his team together? Or does it make them worse because Josh Heupel raises some questions with talent evaluation? That's really the big question and the big story of this. And we don't know where that lands, honestly. We have no idea where that lands. But yes, Josh Heupel's recruiting finally being tested. The majority of starters this year will be players he signed out of high school. So those are the biggest questions surrounding the Vols as they take the podium at SEC Media Days. Nico Iamaleava in quarterback competition, roster turnover on offense, defensive line depth, and Josh Heupel's recruiting finally being tested. Now, I want to ask this quick question, and it's today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Is Tennessee flying under the radar at SEC Media Days? And is it good news that they're flying under the radar at SEC Media Days? Josh Heupel last year had all the fanfare behind him and all the hype because Nico Iamaleava was going to step in as a starting quarterback. This year, there's still kind of a splash story just having to get rid of Nico Iamaleava and going to Joey Aguilar. But is Tennessee, with all that happening, flying under the radar? That's a huge question for the Vols. And I'm setting it up as the poll question now. And I'm going to go 4 ways on this, okay? Is Tennessee flying under the radar? Is Tennessee flying under the radar at SEC Media Days 2025? And the questions will be yes, and that's a good thing. Yes, but because they're irrelevant. We'll keep going. Don't worry. No. And yes, those are the three questions. Okay, so is Tennessee flying under the radar at SEC Media Days in 2025? I want you guys to give me your takes on that. It could go either way. I think they kind of are. I think they kind of are flying a little bit under the radar. And the question becomes just how under the radar and how will that affect them long term? They have a tough start to the season with Syracuse and Georgia, so we don't know how that's going to play out. But keep in mind that Tennessee, I mean, it's not like this is the first time they've been flying under the radar over the last 15 years, given the decade of dysfunction. The day's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
The poll question up, is Tennessee flying under the radar at SEC Media Day? 64% say yes, and that's a good thing. 27% saying yes, but because they're irrelevant, and 9% say no. Everybody remembers those times they were flying under the radar because they were irrelevant during the decade of dysfunction. So the question becomes now, are they flying under the radar, and is that a good thing, or are they not flying under the radar? I mean, look, there's still a lot of questions and a lot of storylines surrounding Tennessee. There just seem to be a lot more overall, given everything that is happening with the Vols. Now, I want to address a couple of message board comments real quick. Sam Schrock says Syracuse isn't a tough start. That's going to be another NC State game. Sam, Tennessee had Nico back last year when they faced NC State, but you could be right. You could be right. I just think Syracuse has a very good coach in Fran Brown, who is going to really, really build that up. And so General Ursa says, I always like it when Tennessee isn't on the radar. Whenever I see national media pump us up, it makes me nervous. 2002 pick to win the Natty, go 8-5. 2005 pick to win the Natty, went 5-6. Yes, you were absolutely right. As a matter of fact, those are the last two seasons in which Tennessee started the year ranked in the top 5. And they finished unranked and went 5-6. Those became highly disappointing games. So yes, both highly disappointing. Tennessee flew under the radar both times, went 8-5, and then went 5-6. And that was not a good situation for them. I still say Syracuse is somewhat of a tough start. Now, Sam does point out that Nico had started one game. Syracuse lost their whole team. That's fair. Syracuse did lose their whole team, but I do have a feeling they upgraded talent-wise. So that's kind of where I'm landing on this, is they did upgrade talent-wise, and I think that that's why things could be tough. But flying under the radar, again, I say and maintain, could help Tennessee. So hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on. When we come back, we're going to talk about a situation with Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum and a comment that was made yesterday when they were talking together. Stick with us, 2 minutes off the hook sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln, Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. Here to look at that plumbing problem?
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Tennessee is going to take the podium at SEC Media Days today. That's why we're actually, just so you guys know, we're going to do a shortened show because of that. I just want to give you guys that a heads up. But please hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on as we get to Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum reveal some information about Phillip Fulmer. Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum were chatting in the studio yesterday, and they were chatting and talking about basically Phillip Fulmer and how he doesn't talk to either of them. This was a whole thing about Phillip Fulmer. This was a whole thing about Lane Kiffin and Paul Finebaum's relationship, because there's a joke about how they don't like each other and all that good stuff. Okay. Kiffin and Finebaum then got into a conversation about Phillip Fulmer that was incredibly illuminating, incredibly interesting, incredibly revealing, and something I didn't see happening. Okay. And I'm pulling it up now. So I'm getting to it at this point. Let me just pull it up if I can find it. But basically, they talked. It was about when Lane Kiffin was in Oakland. Okay. And Lane Kiffin made a joke that he was losing while at Oakland on purpose because he was trying to get fired to get the Tennessee job. Here's the full clip. It's about a minute, and we'll see how it plays out.
Because I was trying to get fired to make sure I could get the Tennessee job. You didn't know that?
I never knew that story.
Yeah, I think you reported one time that I actually got Phil Fulmer fired. All right.
I did report that, yes, because it's 100% true.
It wasn't true at all.
I mean, the most beloved coach since Neyland, and here comes Lane Kiffin.
Yeah. And Phil Fulmer never spoke to me because of that, because of you reporting that.
Phil Fulmer never spoke to you while
never
you were...
once. I tried to reach out to him, tried to go over and meet him, and he wouldn't talk to me because he was convinced, because Paul Finebaum said that I got him fired.
Well, if I said it,
I was in Oakland, losing games in Oakland, kicking a 76-yard field goal.
That was a good move, wasn't it?
Thank you.
I mean,
yeah.
Phil Fulmer doesn't talk to me either. Don't worry about it.
All right. This is going to be What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry. Yeah. Kiffin and Finebaum say Fulmer won't talk to them. That's kind of wild. Okay. And truth be told, I got to be honest. This is very revealing about Kiffin and Finebaum. Kiffin and Finebaum said Fulmer won't talk to them. We all knew Phillip Fulmer didn't like Lane Kiffin. Okay, I'd heard reports when Phillip Fulmer took the athletic director job at Tennessee that Lane Kiffin has basically... We all knew that Phillip Fulmer, when he took the athletic director job at Tennessee, that he did not like Lane Kiffin. I didn't know if it was that Lane Kiffin replaced him or if that he didn't like the way Lane Kiffin... There's three reasons that I felt Phillip Fulmer didn't like Lane Kiffin. One was just that Lane Kiffin replaced him. Two was there were rumors that Lane Kiffin was jockeying to get the job at Tennessee when Fulmer was still there. And three, and one of the big ones was Fulmer didn't like how Lane Kiffin took the job and then got rid of a lot of staff that Fulmer felt should have stayed at Tennessee. It was kind of an old school way of thinking. Now, Fulmer at the same time points out that, Finebaum points out that Fulmer won't talk to him either, which is very, very, very interesting. And I wonder why Finebaum won't talk to him, or why Fulmer won't talk to him. Because honestly, Finebaum did report that at the time, but here's the way things went down. Lane Kiffin was ready to get fired at Oakland. We kind of know that now. Al Davis kind of called him a liar. They had a really bad divorce, if you want to call it that, in September of 2008. Phillip Fulmer basically then was fired in late October that year. There were rumors that Lane Kiffin was already looking at taking the Washington job. And if Mike Hamilton didn't move to fire Fulmer, he was worried he'd lose out on Lane Kiffin, who he clearly wanted as head coach. How that all played out, I don't know. But it does sound like Fulmer doesn't like Lane Kiffin for taking his job. There's a huge twist of irony in that, though. And it's What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. I'm going to bring you the irony in just 30 seconds.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
The irony of Phil Fulmer's bitterness at Lane Kiffin? Anybody know from the message board? Let's just go ahead and point it out. Phillip Fulmer's bitter over the fact that Lane Kiffin, he believes, took his job. But didn't Phillip Fulmer take Johnny Majors' job and do it the same thing from Johnny Majors? I mean, it's Russ-tastic says the best part, Fulmer is one to be offended over someone getting him fired in order to take his job. Isn't that the truth? Okay. What Fulmer believes about Lane Kiffin, what Fulmer believes about Lane Kiffin is very much what Johnny Majors believes about Phillip Fulmer. And ironically, after Phillip Fulmer was fired, Lane Kiffin brought Johnny Majors a lot on board to the sidelines to talk about other things. That was kind of one of the fun things that was happening during that time. So, truth be told, Phillip Fulmer, little bit of hypocrisy on Phillip Fulmer's end, isn't there? When you're talking about Lane Kiffin getting you fired. Lane insisted at his press conference. Here's the other part where they're similar. Phillip Fulmer insisted in 1992, and Lane insisted in 2008. Both of them that, and this is a big one, they both insisted that they had nothing to do with the previous coach being fired. Now, Fulmer's was a lot more direct. For those who don't remember, in 92, Phillip Fulmer stepped in as interim head coach for Johnny Majors when Johnny Majors was having open heart surgery. Fulmer started 3-0, upsetting Florida and Georgia. Johnny Majors comes back. They win 2 games to get to 5-0, and then they lose 3 straight. Johnny Majors is fired. Phillip Fulmer takes over for the bowl game. It turns out there were numerous calls exchanged between Phillip Fulmer, the president, and the athletic director during that time while Johnny Majors was at Tennessee, which led people to believe Phillip Fulmer was undercutting Johnny Majors. The rumor with Lane Kiffin, like I said, was that Lane Kiffin was already looking into Washington, and had Tennessee not moved to fire Fulmer to let him know the job was open, Kiffin may have taken the Washington job. Highly ironic, that job went to Steve Sarkisian, who then took Lane Kiffin's job after Lane Kiffin got fired at USC. So there was a lot there. Now, General Ursa says Phil didn't just shaft Johnny Majors. He also shafted Curry to get the AD job. Now, true, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's be a little fair to Fulmer. One, the Curry thing, yes, Fulmer wanted the job. He wanted it from the start, and he saw an opportunity. But, Curry was done because people were ready to move on from the Haslams, and the Haslams were Curry was basically their puppet, and he was Jimmy Haslam was screwing things up so badly at Tennessee. Curry was, even though I don't think he's a bad athletic director, he was given that job with one hand tied behind his back to begin with because Haslam wanted a puppet. So you couldn't really have him anymore if you want to move on for the Haslams. Now, Fulmer with Johnny Majors, to be fair to him, guys, one of the reasons they were worried about losing Phillip Fulmer was Fulmer was going to take a job somewhere else as a head coach because he was such a highly touted candidate for doing his job well, even if he wasn't exchanging phone calls with the administration. And when he did that, he was going to take half the staff with him. Okay. And the reason he was going to take out the staff with him was because a lot of the staff was loyal to him and preferred him. And that's how that all played out. So taking that into account, we have to point out that Phillip Fulmer, truth be told, is a little bit hypocritical for the Lane Kiffin thing and should be a lot more fair given his own situation. But I've never been on the Phillip Fulmer shafted or backstabbed Johnny Majors. And I never will because I just don't think that makes sense when you take everything into account. And so with that in mind, Phillip Fulmer, I'm going to say that Fulmer, it's kind of interesting that he doesn't talk to Paul Finebaum or Lane Kiffin. But at the same time, we have to point out that this is how things happen sometimes in college sports. It is weird that he still won't talk to Paul Finebaum. That's kind of an interesting one. Moving on, sticking with SEC Media Days coverage and talk, Diego Pavia says the national championship is the goal for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia said the Vandy Commodores' national title is the goal. He was talking about this while Vanderbilt took the stage at SEC Media Days on Monday. Pavia basically has been saying this for a while. We've been trolling him over it because we're like, what the heck? You think you can win a national title? He said earlier in the year Vanderbilt's going to run the state of Tennessee. He says a lot of crazy stuff, okay? Says a lot of insane things. Diego Pavia is the quarterback for Vanderbilt who got that extra year of eligibility, shouldn't even be playing, is talking a lot. Does that mean he's really does that mean he really believes he's going to win the national title? So I don't know. We're going to have to see. But Diego Pavia did point out that Vanderbilt, he believes, is going to win the national title. Or no, he didn't say he believes it. That his goal is to win the national title. How true is that? Well, let's play Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank member FDIC. What are reasonable expectations for Vandy if they hit their peak and they're perfectly well run? That is Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, we're going to get to some comments made by Diego Pavia for a little fun in a minute. But first, I want to address a couple of things about the Vanderbilt expectations. Because what are reasonable expectations for them? I think peak Vanderbilt, if everything is going right, is probably what James Franklin did when he was there back in the early 2010s. Now, remember, that was when the SEC East was really down. So they went 9-4 and had back-to-back top 25 finishes. Vanderbilt, here's Vanderbilt's path to being a solid program. Tennessee's going through a decade of dysfunction, which is possible. Alabama's going through a decade of dysfunction. Auburn is going through a decade of dysfunction. Kentucky is at one of their bottom out moments. And then they play the easiest non-conference schedule possible. If those things happen, I think it is possible for Vanderbilt to be a 9-10 win team. Now, remember, there have been times in the past where Tennessee and Alabama have both been down together. They haven't both been up together, interestingly enough, but they've both been down at the same time. Maybe they will be up together with Josh Heupel and Caleb DeBoer. And I don't mean up like for like 1 year. I mean up for a period of time. Okay, this is how that's going to have to all play out. We don't know how it's going to be with Diego Pavia, but we will point out that, or with Vanderbilt, but I will say I don't think Vanderbilt has any pathway to a national title whatsoever. Sam Schrock says Diego should just try to not get beat by 35 at Neyland. You're totally right. Elias says Pavia may as well say he's aiming for a Nobel Peace Prize and Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Very, very, very true. Sam Schrock says VIP Play Sportsbook already has a 13.5 line for Tennessee versus Vandy if anybody wants free money. I mean, the game is in Knoxville this year. I don't know how that game would be within 13 points unless Tennessee had already quit on the season because they had a bad year and lost all their key games, which is possible, but that doesn't seem likely with a senior quarterback. Again, guys, we have a shortened show today coming back. I'm going to talk about some comments that Greg Sankey made about the college football playoff and how it could stay at 12 teams. Stick with us 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super Savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare. Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Please hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to close out this shortened show, and we're doing the shortened show because we want to make sure we are in position to cover Josh Heupel in Tennessee at SEC Media Days today, guys, and then we will have as much as we can to bring you guys tomorrow about everything that happened. But we're going to close this show out with Greg Sankey has basically admitted what we all knew to be true but was not official, which is that the SEC and the Big Ten can't come to an agreement. Sankey said that he, and this is on the first day of SEC Media Days. For those who don't know, there's a December 1st deadline to determine a format for the college football playoff in 2026 and beyond. Sankey said he and Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti spoke for 4 or 5 days last week and acknowledged the SEC's different view coming out of spring meetings in Destin. The Big Ten has favored a model that rewards conferences with guaranteed spots and play-in games to determine them, such as 4 teams for the Big Ten, 4 teams for the SEC, and there's play-in games at the very end of the year for like 3 and 6 and 4 and 5. And the SEC coaches have most recently said they would prefer a 16-team format that just includes the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and 11 at-large bids. Sankey said, quote, "The Big Ten has a different view. That's fine. We have a 12-team playoff, 5 conference champions. That can stay if we can't agree." That's something the Big Ten's not going to like. But yes, Greg Sankey basically said if they can't agree on this, they're just going to stick at this format past 2025, which is a very revealing thing. So we're going to play hot or cold and leave out and put out every single possibility of what could happen with the college football playoff. Now, I've already pointed this out before, right? I've already gone through this, and I'm going to go through the ones I've gone through, but then I'm going to go through some that haven't even been mentioned yet because things could just blow up, which somebody like me might be hoping for because I don't like these mega conferences with this insane playoff. So let's get started. Hot or cold on college football playoff potential options, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. All right, hot or cold. Playoff formats, possible ones. 14 teams with auto bids. 4 SEC, 4 Big, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 1 Group of 5, 1 at large. Honestly, if you're going to do auto bids, no, I'm cold on this. I don't like auto bids. I don't like this. I'm not a fan at all. I just don't like the possibility of 8 and 4, 9 and 3 teams consistently getting into the college football playoff. So I'm radically cold on that. 16 teams with auto bids. 4 SEC, 4 Big 10, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 1 Group of 5, 3 at large. Honestly, if you're going to do the auto bids, you're going to see undeserving teams get in anyway. At least this way you keep the conference races intrigued. So I'm hot on that if that's the only possibility they could do. All right, 14 teams with this model, the top 5 conference champions, and then the next 11 teams while everybody goes to 9 conference games. I'm actually hot on this one. I'm actually pretty hot. And here's how I would do it, honestly. It wouldn't just be 14 with the top 5 conference champions. I would take the top 2 conference champions and give them a first round bye. Now, I know people were complaining about the first round byes of conference champions last year, but doing it with the top 4 is not necessarily the same as doing it with the top 2. So I think top 2 is fine. Take the top 2 conference champions, give them a first round bye. Here's how you make that bye be an advantage. The top 2 conference champions play their game that first week at home, not as part of a bowl game. That's how I would do it. So here's how I would do it. As of right now, with the college football playoff, you have 6 bowl games and then 4 games at on-campus venues and then a national title. Those 6 bowl games rotate in the quarter and semifinals. What I would do, and this is going to be kind of an interesting one, is in the first round, I would have 2 of the bowl games actually be in the first round. So if you take the top 2 teams and give them first round byes, 2 gets to host 14, 3 gets to host 14, 4 gets to host 13, 5 gets to host 12, 6 gets to host 11. But 7 and 10 and 8 and 9 play at neutral site bowl games. And then that way in the second round, when you're down to 8 teams, you have 1 gets to host 8 and 2 gets to host 7. Boom. It's a win-win for me. That's how I would do it. Honestly, I know that might be a little underrated, but I would reseed every round. This is the other big one. Reseed every single round, so that way 14 doesn't have to play 5, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's how I would do it if I were doing the 14. The other option, 16 teams with top 5 conference champions, and then the next 11 teams, and then the next 11 teams ranked while everybody goes to 9 conference games. Then you would just have all the first round games at home and call it a day. Here are the other possibilities. I'm actually a little cold on that. Another possibility. College football playoff keeps the current format that'll be in place this upcoming year and just keeps it going forward. I don't really mind that, but I'm not crazy about it. I don't like this format. All right, Hot or Cold brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heat and Air, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. I'm going to tell you what could happen. Likely won't happen, but I would love it if it did. Stick with me. First, a quick message from City Heating and Air Conditioning.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
All right, here are the formats I want. 1, they take a dramatic step and reduce the playoff to 8 teams, which would be the top 5 conference champions, 3 at-large bids. Yes, do it. Do it. This is what I want. I want the regular season to matter more. If you do the top 5 conference champions and 3 at-large, you've got the regular season mattering once again. This is exactly how it should have been the entire time, because then the regular season would carry inherent insane value. If you did this last year, now, a lot of people may not like this because I think Tennessee would have been the last team out in this situation. However, you would have had Oregon, Georgia, I believe, you would have had Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Clemson get into the playoff as Boise State and Arizona State. You would have had Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State get into the playoff, and Clemson. Those would be your top 5 conference champions. And then you would have had Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, no Ohio State, Tennessee. I'm sorry, I don't really care. I know that may suck, but at the same time, I like the idea of 2 losses potentially knocking you out of the playoff. That's how it should be. I want the regular season to matter. Sorry, hate me for it. I love that idea. And the final idea, and this is the big one, which is that this would be the greatest. What if they can't come to an agreement? The whole thing implodes. No more playoff, and we just go back to bowl games. That's what I want. That's my ultimate goal, is to just return to bowl games and then just maybe do a +1 at the end of the year after them. That's how it should be done. All right, guys, we are going to run to cover Tennessee at SEC Media Days. I want to thank you guys all for tuning into this shortened show. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn your notifications on. We are live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Banks & Jones, why settle? T. Scott Jones, play to win. BanksandJones.com, brought to you live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. We will be covering SEC Media Days. We'll have some stuff to write about on the site. So stick with us. Follow us. You guys have a great rest of your day with Caleb.